These Formula One records will never be broken, like a driver who got disqualified without qualifying, and another who needed 70 grid penalties just to start the race. From a 5-minute race win to a driver who didn't even qualify but still managed to get disqualified, today we're diving into the craziest, weirdest and most unbreakable records in F1 history. And yes, one of them involves 70 grid penalties. You heard that right, 70. Let's get into it. Only driver to DNF, DNQ and DSQ in a single race, Hans Heyer. This next one sounds like a joke, but it actually happened. Hans Heyer, 1977 German Grand Prix. He didn't qualify for the race. He entered the race anyway, illegally. His car broke down, so he DNF'd. And then he got disqualified. That's right, one weekend, 3 letters, DNQ, DNF, DSQ. Nobody else has managed that hat trick, and let's be honest, no one else ever will. Youngest F1 driver, Max Verstappen. At just 17 years and 166 days old, Max Verstappen made his debut at the 2015 Australian Grand Prix. He couldn't legally drive a road car in most countries, but Red Bull said, "Hey, close enough." And it worked. Verstappen would go on to become one of the youngest winners, champions, and now, arguably, the face of modern F1. His debut didn't just raise eyebrows, it redefined what teams thought was possible with raw talent and early grooming. But due to rule changes introduced shortly after, you now have to be 18 to race in F1 and hold a super license. So yeah, no one's breaking this record. It's Verstappen's forever. Just like his place in F1 history, longest did not finish DNF streak, Andrea De Cesaris. When you think of DNF legends, nobody tops Andrea De Cesaris. Between 1985 and 1986, he racked up an astonishing 18 consecutive did not finishes, a streak so wild it feels like a tragic running gag written into the F1 script. This wasn't just bad luck. It was a full-blown saga of mechanical failures, collisions, spins, and occasional moments of sheer misjudgment. If there was a way to retire from a race, De Cesaris probably invented it. At times, it seemed like his car was allergic to the checkered flag. Every Sunday became a test of how far he could get before something, anything, went wrong. But here's the twist. De Cesaris wasn't slow. In fact, he had genuine pace. In his earlier years, he even showed flashes of brilliance that made teams take notice. He landed drives with big names like McLaren and Alfa Romeo, not because of sponsorship deals or politics, but because when the car worked and he kept it clean, he could be seriously quick. He snagged a surprise pole in the 1982 US Grand Prix West and had several near-podium finishes. That's what made him such a paradox. The speed was there, the raw talent was undeniable, but consistency, nowhere in sight. Despite the record, he kept getting second chances, because under the wreckage was a driver that, if only for a few laps, could look like a world beater. Still, 18 straight DNFs. That's not just a statistic, it's a legacy. A record no driver wants, and realistically, no one's ever going to beat. Biggest grid penalty, Jenson Button 2015 Mexican Grand Prix. 70 factorials, 70 grid place penalties. That's what Jenson Button received at the 2015 Mexican Grand Prix for changing nearly every power unit component under the sun. Engine, turbo, MGU-H, MGU-K, control electronics. You name it, McLaren Honda swapped it. It's like being sent to the back of the grid, and then some. Had there been 5 more grids behind him, Button would have started at the back of all of them too. Of course, you can't literally start 70 places down. The penalty was largely symbolic, stacking up the infractions as a reflection of just how unreliable and penalty-prone F1 power units had become. At the time, the rules punished teams harshly for going over their component limits, and McLaren was the poster child for that era's chaos. The backlash was strong enough that F1 later revised how grid penalties were calculated, capping the madness. But that 70-place penalty, it still stands as the largest in history, a ridiculous number for a ridiculous situation. and one that Button, with typical British humour, took in stride. Oldest Grand Prix winner, Luigi Fagioli. Think Formula One is just a young man's game? Try telling that to Luigi Fagioli, who etched his name in the record books by winning the 1951 French Grand Prix at the age of 53 years and 22 days. Yes, you read that right. 53. Not a rookie, not a rising star. This was a man old enough to be the father, or even grandfather, of most drivers on the grid today. Fagioli was already a seasoned racer long before F1 officially existed, competing in the dangerous pre-war Grand Prix era, where leather helmets and steel nerves were standard issue. By the time Formula One was born in 1950, Fagioli was in his early 50s, an age when most athletes are long retired, managing golf handicaps, not managing tyre degradation. But none of that mattered in 1951. Racing for Alfa Romeo alongside legends like Juan Manuel Fangio, Fagioli proved that experience and racecraft could still outpace youth and aggression. At Reims, he drove a disciplined race in brutal summer heat, co-driving with Fangio and sealing his place as the oldest race winner in Formula One history. And more than 7 decades later, that record still stands. In today's world of grueling training regimens, data telemetry, and teenage prodigies jumping straight from simulators into race seats, the idea of a driver in his 50s even starting a Grand Prix is borderline science fiction. This isn't the era of gentleman racers and hand signals anymore. F1 is a precision sport where peak physical and mental condition are everything. A relic from a different era, and a reminder that greatness doesn't always come with youth. Biggest comeback win in a single race, John Watson. Imagine starting a race in 22nd place. Now imagine winning it. That's exactly what John Watson did at the 1983 US Grand Prix West in Long Beach. No pit stop trickery, no safety car chaos, just pure overtaking skill and raw pace. He carved through the field like butter on a hot day, from dead last to first. A comeback that makes Drive to Survive look like a rom-com. To this day, no one has won from further back on the grid. What makes it even more remarkable? He did it in an era without DRS or tyre gimmicks, just guts, throttle control, and a McLaren that was dialed in but far from dominant. Watson's drive wasn't just historic, it was a masterclass in calculated aggression and a shining example of how much ground a truly great driver can cover when everything clicks. Biggest winning margin, Stirling Moss. Today's races are won by seconds, maybe tenths, but in 1958, Stirling Moss laughed at that. He won the Portuguese Grand Prix by 5 minutes and 12 seconds. Yes, that's an actual F1 race, not an endurance test. The runner-up crossed the line 5 entire minutes later. Unless someone brings a bicycle to the grid, this margin's safe forever. Closest qualifying tie, 1997 European Grand Prix. Ever heard of a 3-way tie in qualifying? It happened. At the 1997 European Grand Prix, Jacques Villeneuve, Michael Schumacher and Heinz-Harald Frentzen all set the exact same lap time, 1 minute 21.072. 3 drivers, same time, down to the thousandth. How did they settle it? Whoever set the time first got pole. Villeneuve took the top spot, and Schumacher, well, he'd make headlines later that race for other reasons. But let's be real. With timing now down to 10 thousandths, the odds of this happening again are astronomical. It's one of those freak moments in racing history where precision met pure coincidence and left engineers, fans, and even the FIA shaking their heads in disbelief. Longest F1 race ever, 2011 Canadian Grand Prix. If you thought Monaco was long and slow, let me introduce you to the 2011 Canadian Grand Prix. This race took over 4 hours to complete. There was a 2-hour red flag delay due to torrential rain, and the field spent 32 laps behind the safety car. Jenson Button went from last place to the win in a chaotic, slippery masterpiece. But the real winner? The fans who didn't turn the TV off. Records are meant to be broken. Unless we're talking DNFS, rain delays, or triple disqualifications. These are the moments that define F1, not just for the stats, but for the stories behind them. From legends like Moss and Fagioli to chaos merchants like Hans Heyer, these records aren't just quirky, they're untouchable. Let us know which one blew your mind the most, or if you've got a favourite record we missed. And if you want more insane racing stories like these, hit subscribe. We drop new F1 craziness every week.